Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in the Cosmic Suits. Hope you're well. You're having a good time. Did you enjoy the Lionsgate? 88. Donald Trump. Text 88022. That was all over his stand. And then he gets raided by the FBI on the 8th of the 8th. Wouldn't surprise me if it was at 8 p.m., but I don't know what actual time it happened. Anyway, my throat is slightly recovering. My back hurts because I lifted some furniture, but I've just been told that's because of my age. But anyway, today I want to talk to you about something pretty important. So if you've been with me for a while, you know that I've talked about Touchstone's Pure Extra Body Zeolite Spray. And the reason I've talked about this is because it was introduced to me a couple of years ago by my friend Anna. And this is what it looks like. And it's completely tasteless, odorless, and I put it under the tongue 4 times spray, twice a day, probably sometimes more. And my kids love it because it doesn't taste of anything. And what it does is it acts like a magnet as it goes through your body, and it just pulls out heavy metals because we're exposed to tens of thousands of toxins every day. Your whole life is weaponized against you, from the paint in your wall to the carpets to what we're being sprayed to. It's everywhere, right? So when I started using this, I had a session with a healer. I can't remember what kind of healer they are. It's like a muscle testing healer. And she didn't know that I was on this stuff. And it was about a month after using it, or maybe 2 months. And she turned to me and said, "This is weird." I went, "What?" She said, "You've got no heavy metals in your body, no bad ones." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Which is why I tell everybody, go and get it, try it. There'll be a link near this video. If you've not tried it before, go and try it. But this was created by a man called Eddie Stone, because he tried to solve his own mother's toxicity problems. And I'm very pleased to have Eddie here today. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, Mark. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm hoping you're going to do all the talking because I'm struggling to speak, but I'm going to keep talking my way through it. I think it's the way out.
Happy to do it. My kids would tell you I'm quite capable of just talking and talking and talking. So
Yeah. Normally I am. I think that's what the problem is. I've probably done too much talking in the last 2 years, at least. So, firstly, thank you for creating this product. It's been a great benefit to me and my family. And when Anna introduced me to it, I trust Anna. I'll give it a go. She's an expert in toxicity.
yeah,
She's written an 800-page book. If you've not seen it, guys, go and find it on Amazon. Anna Rogers, Toxic People, Toxic World, I think it's called. So I trusted her. I tried the product, saw the benefits, especially in the last couple of years. It's just been of great benefit to me and my kids. So thank you. It's nice to thank you personally for
you're welcome.
creating it.
It was one of those things, a labor of love, right? Because I have maybe too much of an understanding of how toxic the world is we live in, which you were mentioning, and how necessary it is to think about these things.
Yeah, well, I also like the story behind it because all the great inventors come up with things because they're trying to solve a problem for themselves. And it was your. Am I right in remembering it was your mother had issues and you were trying to?
Yeah, absolutely. A variety of issues, but one of them was that she was being self-poisoned from some breast implants she had when she was younger, and the way they were breaking down, leaking, autoimmune response, and so chelation or binding of toxins getting out of her body really led down to the path of getting those things taken out of there, properly diagnosed. I mean, it really saved her life. She's a beautiful, nearly 80-year-old woman today, and that might not have been the case had we not found a solution.
It is a subject close to my heart because when I first started realizing how toxic the world was, I guess it was about 15 years ago, and I literally went through my whole house and looked at everything from the shampoo to the shower gel to the toothpaste. I mean, I've not used fluoride toothpaste for 15 years now. And I do go on about that on this channel because I think it's so important because, I can look out the window here and I can see the rooftop of an old people's home. And there's 2 in this small town and they're huge. And I think this town's got the highest average age in the whole country because of these places. But most of the people are in there because they've got Alzheimer's.
Oh,
right? And what causes Alzheimer's is heavy metals.
Heavy metals playing a meaningful role, and yet there's very little restriction on introducing new man-made chemicals, preservatives, metal combinations, and all these things into consumer products we have every day. I mean, almost nothing, right? Almost nothing. It's almost like you have to have consumers have a problem before there's any sort of questioning about, oh, maybe we'll take a look at that. It's an unbelievably a scenario where it's favoring those companies, and the consumers' rights are just ignored.
Well, it's been going on like that for at least a century. I used to have an asbestos removal business years ago, and it was incredible how many people were dying of mesothelioma and asbestosis. But because it was 20, 30 years after they'd been exposed to it, there was nothing. There are huge compensations that a lot of people are getting, but it's too late. They're already dead. But you look back on the way that asbestos was promoted years ago, it was safe. It made buildings fire retardant. It was super. It was the same way as they promoted cigarettes in the 50s. This is good. Doctors actually recommending cigarettes, good for your lungs.
Right.
So they get away with it for such a period of time that it takes innovators like you to come along and go, hang on a minute, we're going to solve this problem.
Well, in my case, the one thing that I've come to realize, I'm 58 years old, is that, I can want things to be different, larger, in a larger fashion, right? Between regulations of companies, chemicals they use, how the government reacts. But the truth is, it's very difficult to change that system because of the money behind it, the manipulation at the political level and the regulatory level. And so I'm just focused on solutions, right? And selfishly, for my family and myself, extended community and friends, and then just recognizing that there's just this larger need, and not just in the US and the UK and other developed countries. I mean, just as a global issue. It doesn't matter where we go. These toxins can be found in people's bloods, can be found in the core blood of babies. It's just pervasive to the point that you got to think about, how do I deal with it?
Yeah, and I think, the last 24 months or 26 months have got a lot more people thinking about what they put inside their bodies than ever before.
Yeah.
And, Touchstone has helped how many people now?
Just with the Pure Body alone, it's well over 1 million people that have been involved with that product. And I mean, that's just a rough estimate. It's probably more than that, right? We're just trying to directly identify. And so we're proud of the reach. And to be clear, we don't really advertise. That's all coming from word of mouth, the 20-some thousand 5-star reviews on the website, just the reputation, and one person telling another person, hey, this has happened for me. Here's what I was doing.
Well, that's why I've been happy to tell as many people as possible. And also because it's a networking model, it's people powered. And I like that because that means money's going to the people that are spreading the word instead of going to the corporations to advertise it.
Right. Right. And because where's the accountability there, right?
Yeah.
But if your neighbor, if your family member is talking to you about something they've used, they've got a certain honor there, that they're representing it properly and fairly. They don't want it to be a failed experience on your part. And so I'm a big believer in the power of word of mouth, because I think it's one of those people powers, right? And we don't have enough of them.
100%. And you've been developing products as well. How old is Touchstone now, by the way? I don't think I've asked you that question.
We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And it was a bootstrap business, right? Just contacted some people I knew, bright people, and said, let's get together and do something here, put some energy behind this idea of clean products, clean labels, ideally to help people manage not just toxins, but just what's happening with the food supply and the lack of nutrient density in the food supply, amongst other things. And so it's been great to be a part of it. And it's not an individual thing. It's really a large group of people that's created a synergy, because they're trying to get something for themselves, for their family, for others to be able to use and improve their health.
Well, finding out about the toxicity of the world does lead you inevitably down the path to realizing that the nutrients in the soil are completely diminished because of industrialized farming, which includes the animals that we eat, the meat and everything. So we've all been massively nutritionally deficient on top of being poisoned, which is no surprise why we're at where we're at. But during my research, I think it was about 10 years ago, I came across the idea of fulvic acid and fulvic minerals. And I was over the moon when I heard that you've developed a Touchstone version of this. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to, and really to speak just a little more to what you're describing about the farming situation. And I don't want anybody in the audience to perceive this as me being negative towards the farming community. I'm really empathetic.
Yeah, it's not the farmer's fault.
No, right. It's the pressure they're being put under
Yeah.
to try and increase crop yields, right? They're really in one of those situations where they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, just for survival, because of the way what they're competing with large large food manufacturers is just reducing the cost of food to such a point. There's no ability for the fundamental farmer to really make a living wage. That's why one of the reasons we've seen so many family farms, which used to make the bulk of the supply chain farm goods fall away, and it's just corporate farming. And what that's turned into is that this monoculture farming, which simply means you wear out the land with one crop, trying to get at least 2 rotations out of it. And all you're looking for is yield. And what that really means, folks, is just an increased number of fruits or vegetables per acre. And on the surface, that sounds okay. But growing something faster and growing it plumper and bigger, but not paying attention to the impact on nutrient density is not a solution. It's empty calories, quite literally, and it's empty of the micronutrients and minerals and things your body needs. And so to sort of get to the point of this matter, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, there was a certain amount of fulvic acid that you found in the fruit and vegetable supply because that's fundamentally what's in your soil. Fulvic acid is basically plant material that's broken down, gone into the soil, and all of the nutrient content in it, particularly the minerals, wind up in a substance we refer to as fulvic acid. It grows then into the root supply and on into the fruit of the nut or the vegetable or whatever happens to be. And so it reappears in the system, right? It's just this constant system. And when you've got farming communities where they're rotating crops, they're tilling down excess plant material once things have been harvested, all these sort of practices that were native to organic farming, even before we called it organic farming, right? Non-chemical farming. It was where people really had fruits and vegetables rich in dense in those micronutrients that we need. Once you get away from that and you're just focused on yield, all you do is rely on a heavy dose of herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, right? Let's make sure we kill everything off. Unfortunately, what that does is it kills off the microorganisms that are found in the soil, which are necessary for the breakdown of plant materials like fulvic acid to make it bioavailable to the plant systems. And then the other side of that is you go in and you use nitrogen-based fertilizer to essentially plump up, and that's exactly what it does. Just like if you put it on your lawn and you've seen how all of a sudden miraculously your grass grows faster and it's greener, but if you actually look at the health of the plant, it's really diminished because it inhibits the ability of those root systems to go down deep into the soil to survive drought, right? So then it requires overwatering. I mean, it's this whole cycle that they've bastardized in the farming system. And so what we get are hollow fruits and vegetables, generally speaking, at the conventional level. Unfortunately, even some of the organic farmers who are trying to return the soil to those practices, it takes years, if not decades, to get it there. And so we wind up with less basic trace minerals in our food supply that we desperately need. I think the number is now 9 out of 10 people are short of trace minerals, making them more vulnerable to all types of disease states, including cardiovascular problems, particularly when you think about arrhythmia issues, which are coming when the electrical system is
I had that.
Right. Okay. So this is it, right? And so it's a subtle thing to think about, but being conscious of getting trace minerals into our system. And this is different than, say, taking a calcium supplement or a straight up magnesium supplement, sort of a separate set of issues. This is micronutrients at a very fundamental level that feed the cells and enable the mitochondria to function, right? And I don't want to go too deep into the bioscience, but you need your mitochondria to function because it's the little engine that could inside your cells that creates ATP or the energy to drive the entire function of the physical body.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just coming back to the farmers briefly, I was just reminded then that I have met lots of farmers who are in Europe are under incredible pressure from the EU, and there are farmers all around me that are paid more money not to farm than to farm, and people just don't realize they are under massive pressure. And the suicide rate of farmers worldwide, because of companies like Monsanto, especially in India, You know, I think I read somewhere it was like 30 a day were committing suicide with the introduction of GMO. When I lived in Morocco, I was shocked to see that all these markets full of fruits and veggies were being fed by seed shops that were all GM, even especially in Africa and countries like that. But I was also in business once with the biggest chicken and egg farmer in the UK, and I was distraught one dinner time to hear him talk about he didn't care how it happened, but the life of that chicken before it got slaughtered had to be shorter. And he didn't care. He literally didn't care, because every day off feeding that baby chicken was worth millions to him.
Yeah.
And this is the problem, right? I'm just telling this for the viewers, you know, and it is a fundamental problem. So I'm just intrigued that you've taken all the things you've learned in the last 10 years with zeolite and CBD and other products. What have you done differently with your fulvic acid?
Well, one of the things we've done is sort of look at the marketplace in general, not just in the States, but really throughout Asia, in Europe, and sort of look at what's available, what can consumers access. And the trouble is that a great many of the fulvic products that are out there, no one's paying attention to the sourcing. And from the day Touchstone began, sourcing was really a critical component of our decision making. We're not just focused on things being clean and organic, right? Those are critically important and in the hierarchy of decision making and the values of the company. We'd like to also think about the social impact on people that work there, these other dynamics. But you need to make sure that your sourcing starts with a product with a certain amount of potency. So after it goes through the process, what the consumer gets is actually what's on the label, you know, what they anticipate. And with fulvic products, sometimes fulvic is referred to as a humic acid. Sometimes the words are used interchangeably. But with a fulvic product, the challenge is that often from the sourcing, they're not checked for heavy metals and environmental pollutants, the very things you're trying to get away from, because those soils, those bogs will actually process through acid rain and other mediums, heavy metals into basically their composition and their makeup. And so for us, the challenge was go find a source that was clean from the word go, because there's no sense in delivering to somebody something that's toxic and not going to get us to an end goal of a clean biome and a clean body system. And so sourcing was first. We found a very pristine organic bog, certifications, and that was really where things began for us.
Well, yeah, that'd be quite funny if you were selling one that wasn't, then you had to sell this to make them better after consuming it.
Yeah. And the consumer will notice that we've done all the testing, right? So they've got lab reports that show them that this is clean from the start.
And how long have you been developing this product?
It generally takes us 2 years from concept to completion, because we have to make sure the supply chain is everything it's represented to be. So it requires a lot of third-party involvement, right? Because we want to make sure we've got the right experts testing. And we also want to make sure that it can hold up when we put pressure on it, right? That it's not just a one-off sort of situation or a 2 or 3 year off situation. So it takes us about 2 years. That's what it took with fulvic. Ultimately, we made the decision to take that fulvic and then combine it with a series of seaweed-based trace minerals coming from an organic certified source, because those trace minerals, right, in concentration, both how they've been handled from a soil source, which is how you would refer to fulvic, as well as a plant source. When plants ingest, digest, and yield trace minerals, they are chelated by the plant, right? Now their bioavailability is much greater to the human body. And so how you take them in. And then finally for us, the last piece of the puzzle was to make this a 3-in-1 piece, because we still want to stay conscious, knowing consumers may only use one product, right? They may not always use Pure Body and fulvic, which we want them to. So we made a decision to include some of the zeolite, particularly the Pure Body type zeolite we use for its size for the gut in there. So it's 3-in-1, right? I mean, if a person really can only do one thing because of their budget, it's not wrong to focus on that fulvic. Given the opportunity to use the fulvic and the Pure Body Extra, because that then becomes a cellular cleanse. This is a very powerful combination since we released it in the early spring. Incredible amount of positive feedback and life-changing stories coming from it. So we think it's one of the most unique and important things we've ever done as an organization.
Fantastic. And what's the delivery system? This one sprays under the mouth.
Yeah, this one's in a dropper, because the minerals and the fulvic itself, they're too viscous. to go through the sprayer, right? So you probably get 1 or 2 sprays out of it, and then the sprayer's not going to work, right? And so we had to go with a glass pipette dropper. It's very, very simple to use. It essentially has no flavor. I guess if you put it directly on your tongue, you might think it has some flavor. For me, I'm a fan of coffee. Love good, organic, clean black coffee, and I put a pipette in there every morning. Right, that's sort of how I start my day, and it's just a great combination because combined with that little bit of caffeine and other nutrients that are found in good black coffee, just gives my body just this great source, right, to sort of start the day, start my metabolism.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to mine arriving. What's you? I think you said you put a special offer together for my viewers. What do you want to tell us about?
We did, and I just want to first compliment you and thank you for all the advocacy and support. And you got a lot of stuff coming at you, right? So I know you have a lot of choices, and I just appreciate that you and your audience and your family have enjoyed the products and had a good experience because of that, and to honor that.
Well, no, Eddie, let me tell you this, because I had a chat on Telegram with a few hundred people yesterday, and they were thanking me for showing them products like this because they wouldn't know. They said there's a lot of noise out there. How do we know what's any good? And then you go and get the CEO or the inventor and talk about it and use it. Now, I haven't used this yet because it hasn't arrived yet, but I wanted to talk to you before it did. But I'm certainly going to be, because I trust Touchstone.
Yeah, thank you.
And a lot of the people that have consumed the things that I've recommended on the show are really, really grateful to me. So it's a beautiful synergy.
Yeah, I love the circle. And so in this case, we're going to come back and make it available for $5. That seems to be sort of the linchpin to get people to make a decision. And that's really what we want. We want people to try it. We want them to know what they're missing. We're quite confident once people use something like this and see their energy respond and other benefits that will come from its use, right? Completing that amount of nutrients they need from a mineral standpoint in their body, that they'll stay with the product. And if they don't, they don't, right? That's perfectly fine. And so it's a $5 offer in most places. UK, most of Europe, Canada, Australia, US, a lot of other places. It's free shipping, and it's really simple. And so when you put the link up for people to see it, they're going to go to the window, and they could buy it at retail with no additional obligation. Of course, money back guarantee. They can buy it for $5, of course, money back guarantee, but it sets them up for a subscription at the next best price that's guaranteed. Of course, at any point along the way, they don't want that subscription. They just notify us, and it's immediately turned off. They can email, they can use chat on the website, or they can make an old-fashioned phone call, whatever is best for them. We want to honor the customers. We have a great reputation for doing that. That's what's important to us. But what we really believe is that they're going to enjoy it, and so they'll be back.
Well, I've been in business for 30 years. Producing a thing like this and doing it for $5 means you must have incredible faith in it. And I really appreciate you doing that offer for my viewers. And you guys watching it, for $5, you got to try it out.
Right. Yeah. The accountants always challenge us, but I just say, hold on, boys. Just have some faith. People are going to love this stuff.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've done it again. And I'm very grateful to you and your company being in the world, because this is how it gets a better place.
Yeah, that's right. And if nothing else, right, that's one of those things should be a primary goal. Just leave it better than we found it.
I can't really top that, Eddie. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for the offer. Guys, if you're watching this, click the link below the description for $5. Give it a go, and then come back and tell me what you think to it after you've tried it for at least a month. You have a wonderful day, Eddie. I'm going to go give my voice a rest.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Take care.